Hello, everyone. This is the Faithful Life Podcast. I'm Matt Jacobson of FaithfulMan.com.
And I'm Lisa Jacobson of Club31Women.com. We're so glad you're here with us.
At Faithful Life, we explore what it means to be a biblical Christian in today's world, in our marriage, parenting, church, and culture.
It's real, raw, and relevant.
So let's get started. Hey, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Awesome to be back with you. We just got back from D.C.
We spent the Memorial Day weekend over in D.C. and had an amazing time. We knew it would be good. We were looking forward to it, but it just turned out to be one of those trips that you won't forget for a really long time.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Friends of ours were retiring from 40 years of ministry. And so it was a great trip. Actually, we don't have time to tell some of the funny stuff. There's some really funny stuff that happened. Anyway.
But it was really encouraging to be there and watch this couple who have been ministering for 40 years in faithfulness in their marriage, in their ministry with their family. So for those of you who feel discouraged about the way things are going, I'm telling you, there's a lot of faithful people out there.
Yeah, absolutely. There are. So that part of it was awesome. It was also great to see Britton. Our son lives in D.C. and works in D.C., so that was just great to be with him. And then also, we just have to say this, Library of Congress, one of the most overlooked buildings of all of the buildings in D.C. It is the equal of anything in Europe. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. You just have to go there if you're ever going to go to D.C. Don't miss the Library of Congress.
Another thing we got to do that was unexpected was we went to the Memorial Day concert that apparently they have every year in D.C. It was their 30-year celebration, and it's this amazing concert right on the lawn of the Capitol. And it was spectacular. So
it really was.
Put it on your bucket list. It's a worthy thing.
It's also worth striking up a conversation with one of the Capitol Police because they have stories to tell. Yeah, the guy that I was talking to, I don't know. Does it matter if I say his name? I don't know if it does. I won't. We'll call him Bob. That's not his name. But he was telling me, oh yeah, I've been special detail for the Clinton administration, the Obama administration, the Trump administration. That dude had stories to tell. It was amazing.
Inside scoop, right?
That's
there.
Right, the inside scoop. But anyway, that's not why we're here today. It's just that it's nice to be back. We had an awesome trip, and it's good to be back with you. But today, we are going to be talking about dating your girlfriend after you get married.
That's right. We just came back from one long date.
That's right. We did. That's right. And it's convenient today because I brought my girlfriend with me to the discussion. So
yes, very
she's
convenient.
going to be able to give you the inside scoop on that. So yeah, that's where we're going today. We're going to talk about dating and what's really happening on the ground in your marriage.
Mm-hmm. But before we dive into the topic, we want to thank you for all the wonderful reviews you've left us. Thank you for those 5-star reviews and written reviews on iTunes. But also, we even got a wonderful, kind note, handwritten note from Rhonda Giesbrecht that just shared about how much she's enjoying the podcast, and she and her husband listened to it and how encouraging it is. So thank you.
That is so amazing. And you guys have no idea how encouraging it is to hear from you. It just really is. And so we are so grateful for that. But anyway, so we're talking today, though, about dating your girlfriend. What's happening in your marriage? Are you really dating after you get married? And of course, everybody thinks they're going to. Everybody thinks they're just going to carry on. And they kind of forget those times of the way it was before life got busy, life got hectic, life got active. When you were dating before you were married, you couldn't get enough of each other.
Okay, but before we get too far into it, what do we mean by dating? Because like when I think about dating back when before you're married, you maybe go see a movie, or like it's kind of a more formal thing. But is that what we're talking about here, or what would you say?
Spending a lot of money, making sure.
Hey, that's my line.
Right, so, no, it's making each other a priority on a regular basis is really what you're talking about, and basically being together for no other reason than you desire to spend time with each other. That's what this is about. And so, frankly, it's a huge category of what dating can be. It can be something as simple as holding hands and going for a walk in the park, or the formal dinner out. It's everything in between. But it's really about that purposeful spending time with each other, not to cover the agenda of the week and all of the busyness and the priorities and do errands together, but because I love you and I like you, and it's awesome to be with you, and I just enjoy spending time with you.
And a little bit later in the episode, we are going to give us a bunch of practical ways to snag that time and things you can do. But before we get there, we wanted to talk more about why it's so important and how to make it a priority.
Well, I think the people that date at all right, and some of you are out there and you've got this dialed in, and that's amazing. And you know how great it is, and you know how important it is for your marriage. But I think most of the married couples out there treat dating like a visit to the emergency room. Okay?
Yeah.
So the wheels have fallen off the wagon. Things are not good. And maybe your wife is frustrated and she feels like she's been neglected for a long period of time. And so you go, you know what? we got a problem. We gotta do something about this. It's like an emergency room visit. You got to go stem the flow of blood, and the date is somehow doing that. That emergency room treatment is okay. You get some oxygen, and she can carry on, right? And really, what we want to talk about is treating dating in a much different way. Not the emergency room visit, but really like preventative care.
That's a good picture,
right? Treating it like the priority that it is for a healthy relationship.
Really, because instead of thinking of it, like you said, like an emergency room visit, and because there's a blow up or because there's resentment or coldness growing in your marriage, if you look at it as something you're building and developing, then I just think of how many times we've been able to talk through an issue or grow in appreciation even for one another and in our love and tenderness for each other that has helped basically prevent further arguments or misunderstandings down the road.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's about weaving your life together, really. It's actually that simple of a concept, but it's making a priority of that romantic side of your life too. That piece that we just often let life bury and absolutely shouldn't.
I just wanted to maybe think of this last weekend when we were in DC and we were in the Library of Congress, and Matt had said, hey, I really would like to show you to this. He had been there before several times. I'd actually never been there. And when we were walking through the building and holding hands and looking up at the gorgeous architecture and the details, it reminded me of a side of you that I don't always get to see because we are doing the busy thing, doing the work, and I just grew in my appreciation for that aspect of you. And so even those kinds of things can come out during a small dating time.
Well, that's cool. So, and the dating word, right? I think a lot of guys don't even want to have the discussion because it feels like, they have to do some big epic thing, right? And, you don't have to commit an act of Shakespearean love, all right, to go on a meaningful date with your wife. True. We feel like, hey, if Masterpiece Theater isn't going to call us and ask for the script of our date, then it didn't really qualify, right? It's not like that. And I think those thoughts are intimidating and kind of prevent us sometimes from making these simple steps that we need to make just to move it forward. And so that, again, is not what we're talking about, some big epic thing. We're just talking about making each other a priority. And we will get into the specific details of that. It's really tempting, I think, sometimes to think that, somebody who has a great relationship, somebody who has this piece of their relationship dialed in, those are just the lucky ones. Those are the people that got it right. And too bad for the rest of us, we're not compatible. Or we just don't, really see eye to eye, or we don't really meet in those important ways that are just so easy and natural to others. Yeah,
I think it's easy to assume that like, I know people have commented to me that, oh, you and Matt are so close and you're always together. And that's not an accident. That doesn't just happen. Those are all things that we've intentionally pursued over time. And in the beginning of our marriage, we had to kind of work it out to figure out what worked for us and how to meet each other's needs that way. And we were as busy as everyone else in terms of trying to juggle having babies and run a household and a business. So it took us a little while to get our groove.
Yeah, it's not because Lisa and I are special or lucky or just plain good at this marriage thing. Mm-hmm. You have to choose to love each other, right? We love each other in the big ways, right? We'll be there in the crisis.
Yeah.
But in order to find this beautiful, rich relationship that you just enjoy on a daily basis, this fabric of life that is woven tightly together, in order to find that, you simply have to choose to make loving each other a priority. Now, it's true, Lisa and I have an excellent marriage, and it's imperfect because, Lisa's married to me. So
I'm glad that's what you said.
All right, I call her Saint Lisa.
Notice I'm not jumping in to correct you.
It is perfect, but it's, I mean, it is imperfect, but it's excellent too. And it's because we're determined by God's grace to walk in fellowship with each other and in obedience to Christ. And that really is the key for the Christian marriage. Are you going to walk in obedience to Christ? He is the one that made this relationship a priority. We want depth, richness, love, fellowship, comfort, and joy. Everything that God intended for an awesome marriage, an awesome, loving, biblical marriage. We really want it. So we pursue it. And we purpose to make each other the priority that we must in order to experience the marriage that rises above the mediocre.
Yeah, and we're talking about dating from a biblical perspective, not from the celebrity perspective or like it's from a movie. We're not talking about that sweeping romance, because a lot of our lives, our life is pretty daily, just like yours. But this idea of dating in terms of pursuing each other's hearts, pursuing each other's people, not just your role or the job you perform, but as people and your hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's an experiment that I did. Now, I teach in our home fellowship, and we, by the way, excitingly, we just sent off another several families to start a new work, and that'll be the second one that we've done in about a year and a quarter, something like that. So God's just really at work in our little home fellowship. We're excited about that.
That is exciting.
But one of the things that I've been doing with the men for a long period of time is that I have a class I call the Foundations class. And I take them through some foundational truths, scriptures, principles, theology, relative to the church, relative to life, and relative to walking in this world as a believer. So that's called the Foundations class. And so, but one of the things I do, because one of the foundational elements to a healthy church, a healthy relationship, and just a healthy set of relationships within the church, one of the things that is critically important is your relationship with your spouse. And it's not an option, right? We often, I think, treat this relationship with our spouse as, in terms of it being great, as optional. But that's not optional. That is not optional. If we truly are walking as biblical men, let's say, we'll just talk about the men's side of this, and we do what the Lord says, love your wife like Christ loved the church, well, that means you're deeply cherishing your wife. You're making her this tremendous priority, and you're laying down your life for her. That's not optional. Having a fully yielded heart to the Lord means that I am going to have a cherished wife. Now, she may be godly. She may not be. Me cherishing my wife is not on her. It's on me, right? It's not optional for the Christian man to not cherish his wife. So we really are talking about God's priority in this thing. But one of the things that I ask the men, and I do this every Foundations class, so if some of you are going to have it in the future, just you can brace yourself. This is coming. So
the question's coming.
But I ask the men, I say, okay, so I've got a question for you. All right. So let's just go around the room. All right. And when was the last time you dated your wife? When was the last time you took her out on a date? Now, it doesn't count if you're just saying, oh, yeah, well, we grabbed a bite while we were, doing the 10 things on Saturday that we needed to get done. That's not a date. I'm saying, when was the last time you set aside time to just take her out because you love her and you didn't have another agenda? It's just she is your agenda. When was the last time you did that?
What was the answer?
Well, here's the irony of it all. Literally, every time I've done this, I would say 98% of the time, the answer is, I think it was maybe 4 months ago or half a year ago, or you know what, we really don't date anymore.
Wow. Okay.
It's very common to get this answer back. And so then I have a follow-up question for the men. And my follow-up question is, when was the last time you had sex?
Oh, I think you're supposed to tell me this, guy.
And you know what? Across the board, everybody's pretty satisfied in that area.
Okay, interesting.
Right? And frankly, Lisa is acting like she doesn't know anything about this, but the fact of the matter is...
What? Okay.
So she keeps records, okay?
Oh, dear. Please don't go here.
Oh, yeah, we're going. So, all right. So she came to me one day, and I'm thinking everything is just great.
This is early on in our marriage.
Everything is just great. she's happy. I'm happy. Everybody's smiling. The kids are happy. Everybody's happy. It's all great. She comes to me and she goes, so I've got a question for you. She says, it's turning into a monologue. I didn't mean that. But
that's so they can't see how red my face is.
Of course, if I'm telling on myself, I guess I can just keep talking.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
keep
right?
going. No,
okay,
don't.
Right.
Okay.
So she comes to me and she says, so, hey, got a question. When was the last time you took me out? All right, for dinner, for a date. When was the last time? And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, right. So just probably, what, week and a half, maybe 2. Okay, 2 at the outside. She goes, really? 2 weeks? She goes, well, that's interesting because, see, I've got this calendar and I wrote it down on the calendar. She said, do you want to see that?
I'm a calendar girl.
Do you want to see the calendar? And I'm thinking, okay, this is not going well. So she pulls the calendar out. It was over a month.
Oh, yeah, definitely. At least over a month.
Yeah, it was over a month. And I'm going,
Felt like a lifetime.
Wow, really? And I kid you not, I literally couldn't believe it.
That's why I had to write it down.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Seriously? Because to me, it seemed like, hey, we just went out. Like, we just went out, right? You want to turn around and go out again? And it was over a month. And she goes, so when was the last time we made love? And I'm going, I don't know, last night. She said, yeah, and how about the time before that? And she says, in fact, see, I've got this calendar. And
oh, no.
She pulls it out.
Nobody look at my calendar. I don't.
And she's got all these check marks on it. And she goes, see.
Just to prove a point. I don't normally keep track like that.
But anyway, but the point is that, hey, I'm happy. I'm satisfied. Mm-hmm. My needs are met. Mm-hmm. We're great. And somehow, because she wasn't freaking out and, banging pots together.
I was tempted to, though.
And really angry. She's probably more angry. And yes. She's right here. I can talk to her. That's great. You were probably more angry in your spirit than you were communicating to me, because I didn't think you were angry at all.
Huh, interesting. No, I was, me.
But you were
angry on the inside.
Yeah. And Lisa's this kind of person that is kind of, I know some of you are married to people like this. So everything's great, everything's just going on. It's fine. It's all great. Until Mount Vesuvius blows up. Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, but we hadn't got to that point. But the fact of the matter is, I literally couldn't believe that we hadn't dated for so long. Mm-hmm. But she was showing me, yeah, you know what? Because you're settled, because you're happy, because your needs are met, you're just thinking that everything's okay, but mine aren't met over here.
And I think part of it was that we did spend time together. It wasn't like we had separate worlds or anything, because we ate dinner together as a family and had coffee together as a family. So that's when we talked about it at the time, you kind of said, well, we are together. We did this, we did that, and even worked in the garden together, things like that. But for me, I just wanted to be that set aside time when I wasn't a mom as well as a wife, or I wasn't a pastor's wife as well as I just wanted to be you and me. And that was, I think it took us a little while to figure out what qualified in my mind as a date.
Well, and also you're willing to do the pickup moment. Hey, let's just grab this. And hey, let's do it. You're willing to do that, but not in the absence of a purposeful set aside time, right?
Yeah. And that might be my personality. To me, it means a lot when you actually say, hey, are you free this Friday night? And initiate it and ask me if I want to go out with you. That just makes my heart soar.
Yeah.
So.
Well, awesome. Well, I think the guys in the current foundations class know that, they're just going to get told on. So, so anyway, so brace yourselves, guys. So Ian, right? My friend Ian. So he's in the class, and we've gone around the room, and he kind of admitted, yeah, like all the guys did, I really haven't dated for a long, long time. And it's been way too long. And so I gave them all an assignment. I said, okay, you're going to go home. You're going to take your wife out on a date. And the fact is Ian is one of the busiest guys on the planet, like every other guy I've met. Everybody just seems to be so busy these days. But nevertheless, he just took the time. He told us, and she didn't even believe him at first. She goes, why? What are we doing? He says, and he just said, put your shoes on, we're going. So they went on this date, and Sarah came to understand that, oh, wait, this is just like he wants to be with me. Mm-hmm. And what they did, you know what? He really pulled out all the stops. He went and bought coffee, and then they talked.
Fancy date.
So All right. See, you don't have to move some financial mountain in order to have an awesome date. And the amazing thing about that story is here, he purposed to do this. He set aside time, and Sarah just went with it, and they just grabbed a cup of coffee and talked. The next Foundations class, he came, and everybody came to report their stories and how it went. And big old Ian, like, I'm a pretty big dude, but I look like a boy when I stand next to Ian.
You don't,
Not really.
But he's a big guy.
Not really. He's a big, strong, burly man. He just started crying at the table. Oh. He said it was awesome. It was just awesome.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
And see, that's the thing that is waiting for every man who makes his wife a cherished priority. Awesome is waiting for you.
Well, I appreciate your emphasis on the men and the importance they have to initiate that and make that happen. But I have to add that I think sometimes as women, we can make it difficult for you men. We can do it by just always seeming so busy or making it complicated. So let's say, you do say, hey, let's grab a coffee. And I can do this where I go, well, I've got the kids, I've got this, and I got to make dinner. And instead of saying, hey, I would love that, I can't do it right now, this minute, but so let me just pull some hot dogs out of the freezer and then I can be ready to leave in 45 minutes but the basic idea is to communicate. I would love to do that. I want to make this happen. But I think as women, we can make it difficult, we can make it complicated, and we can also be very cold about it and not just communicate warmth that, yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah, the super, super important. And the thing is that just don't forget the power that you have in affecting your man's desire as well. And of course, this is a symbiotic discussion. It goes both ways. There's something for each in each element of this for man and wife. But when it comes to this business of dating, and I know that there are many, many wives out there that initiate all the time, right? Mm-hmm. We hear that all the time. Hey, I initiate all the time. My husband doesn't really initiate that much. Men, you need to take the lead in this. You really do. You need to make the initiative. And by the way, saying, hey, let's go out on Friday isn't taking the initiative. Here's what the initiative looks like. Babe, are you available on Friday? Because I would love to date you. Mm-hmm. I've already arranged for the kids, and I've already got reservations for where we're going to go, or our plan for what we're going to do. Again, It doesn't have to be a big dinner date. A plan for what we're going to do. And all you have to do is show up looking beautiful. That's it. That's all you have to do.
That's an invitation hard to turn down.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so when you take all of those priorities on yourself and you handle all the details, all of a sudden she goes, wow, I am cherished. I am looked after. And men, there's no man that ever outdid his wife in terms of pouring into her soul true, genuine love, respect, appreciation, cherishing her, that he didn't receive back far more than he poured into her soul. That's the normal circumstance anyway. I'm not saying there aren't some outliers out there and people just don't want to be pleased. That can happen, especially if, frankly, you've been in a situation where you've incrementally closed the door of your wife's heart over time, right? Then there's a bit of resistance there. But for the average guy in the average marriage, and by the way, an average Christian marriage is an awesome marriage. God's normal is what he wants for all of us. If you pour into your wife's heart, she will give back to you so much more than you ever poured into her soul.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You mentioned the kids, so I did want to say something about that. A lot of times I've heard, especially mothers of young children, just say that they can't date because they can't afford childcare or they don't have anybody to watch their kids. And I can see how that can feel like an excuse to, if you don't mind me saying so, to not date, but you actually can be very creative about dating. And Matt and I definitely did when we had lots of young children at home. And so we did things like get up really early so we'd have a cup of coffee together before the kids woke up. We did that on Friday mornings for many years, or your parents who at the time had moved in with us. And they would watch our kids while they were sleeping, basically, and so we could slip out. Or we'll stay up. Even now, we'll do this where we'll put the kids will go off to bed, or go off and do their own thing, and you and I will go back to the bedroom with something special like ice cream or something, or a glass of wine, and enjoy that as well. So you don't have to necessarily get childcare and let that keep you from dating.
The fact of the matter is, we always have time for our real priorities. So that's the message for somebody who's being a little resistant, or that's the message for the guy who's so busy he just can't find the time to, if you make your wife feel like she's just one of the priorities that gets dealt with on the basis of what is the most urgent, well, guess what? She's going to close her heart incrementally toward you. The fact, again, is you always have time for your real priorities. And so here's the truth. Every single person knows that this is true, and they know where they rank.
Yeah.
Your wife knows where she ranks. It reminds me of a story of a farmer, a very successful farmer.
I know what you mean.
Out in Culver, not far from where we live. I'm talking to this dude, and he was tremendously successful, getting ready to sell his farm. And I asked him, I said, hey, I'm just curious. What is the real secret to being a super successful farmer like you? His wife was standing right in the room, and he pointed to her, and she was over doing something in the kitchen. He pointed to her, and he says, well, you have to marry somebody who understands that she's number 2.
Oh, that's so bad.
The farm is first, right? Now, thank goodness that America is filled with farmers who don't believe that. But I'm just saying, I'm not sure you found real success, buddy.
I'm just telling you that answer wouldn't fly with me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. You didn't even have to tell me, baby. I knew that. So the thing is that every wife knows where she ranks in your priorities, and your words are not going to cut it. You can say, I love you, and you mean so much to me, all you want. But she is going to understand where she ranks with you based on where she is prioritized in your list of priorities. And frankly, you got to tell yourself, men, you are the first priority God gave me. I am to cherish you. I am to love you like Christ loved the church. That is God's responsibility. So let's not over spiritualize this and say, oh, well, I've just got all these other, godly priorities. No, God made her your godly priority. So you need to make sure that you have God's perspective when it comes to cherishing and loving your wife in this very simple way of dating, of spending meaningful time with her.
And this is not why you would do it, but I have to say, just as a woman, when Matt takes me out on a date and we just spend some time talking and just being together, then it just puts wind in my sails. So things that I was heavy about before or found burdensome, like the next day, I'm just so much lighter in my spirit and ready to get back at it. And so it really does have a overflowing effect in your relationship and in your home. So it's a powerful thing.
Yeah. And I'd also emphasize one thing that frankly I had to learn, and that is to respect your wife's schedule in finding that time, right? She's busy. She's got stuff going on. She has an entire house to run. She might even be working in addition to all of those responsibilities at home. Just the management of the kids, whatever it is that is in your wife's world, right? Those are legitimate priorities for her too. So don't just say, hey, we're doing this at such and such a time. You ready? Ask her. She is your girl. She's your girlfriend. You love this woman. You cherish her. And just think of her when you were dating. You just didn't show up and say, hey, this is what we're doing, girl. Let's go. You said, hey, are you available on this night? Like, treat her with the respect that you would want to be treated with. Treat her with that care, that love, that consideration, because her world is busy too. And so just remember that when you're trying to figure out what a time is. Invite her to come into your romantic heart, all right? Invite her to come into your moment. Invite her to come in to this place. Invite her to come along with you on this date, right? It substantively doesn't wind up being something different. You're still going to go do what you're going to go do, but the way you approach her will matter so much to her, and she'll hear, wow, he really cares about me. He really wants me to come along with him and is inviting me into this moment.
And for many years, especially in the beginning, we ended up establishing we scheduled a regular date time. It was a Friday morning date that we had for several years. And even though scheduling seems not very romantic, it actually was very helpful for us to know that that was an important part of our lives, our calendar. And the way Matt approached it that made it extra romantic for me was throughout the week, you'd say, hey, looking forward to Friday. And I loved hearing that. I loved that you were thinking that way. And so it wasn't routine. It was still special.
Well, your schedule is not your friend unless you schedule. Okay.
Right.
Now, there are certain people who already have a fabulous relationship and, their lifestyle is such that they can just come and go as they choose. But for the vast majority of us out there, we've got these things called work schedules and priorities,
and school schedules and kids schedules,
that we have to meet. And so for the vast majority of people, making this a priority, and I'll tell you why I had to do this, because I've got the best of intentions of anybody on the planet when it comes to my wife. All right. But good intentions are no match for the tyranny of the urgent.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Good intentions always get sacrificed on the altar of the tyranny of the urgent. And so that's what would happen. I'm thinking, oh, well, but I wanted to, we wanted to go out last Friday night, but this thing came up. And we wanted to catch up on Wednesday, but this thing came up. There's always something in your schedule that's going to compromise this. And so first of all, we got to change our minds that this is not something that can be compromised. It's important. Number one. Number two, since there are so many competing priorities in our lives, find a day that makes sense that you guys can put on that calendar and that you can shoot toward. And again, it's not ironclad. It might be that we have to change it up because of something, but the fact is you're going to have to defend this time against all comers because there's going to be all sorts of competing priorities to say, oh, well, we can pass that off again. We can let that go again. So we're going to encourage you, schedule. And it does not have to take the romance out of it. It adds anticipation, and it's going to happen. You can count on it, and you don't have to be disappointed again because my good intentions somehow became the victim of some tyrannical moment that overshadowed our lives.
I know one of the other preventatives for a lot of people is the cost, and so we wanted to just share with you some practical, fun ideas that we've done that are just to give you ideas of what you can do to still count on this date that doesn't actually cost a lot of money. So assuming that that dinner movies that's going to be probably a chunk of change. But what are some other things that we've done?
Well, you know what? It's not very sophisticated. So we literally there's a park in Bend called Drake Park, and we go down there and we like walking in Drake Park. We hold hands, and we hold hands on the way there. We do. Lisa and I hold hands all the time. We've been doing that since we walked off that mountain. You should listen to our first the podcast that not the first one, but the one that talks about our love story. I forget.
Yeah, it's like number 2 or something.
Anyway, when we walked off the mountain. We were holding hands. We've been holding hands ever since. So we would hold hands on the way there. We're going to walk through that park. We're going to hold hands and just talk. Like we don't go with this big agenda. We just go because each other is the agenda.
Yeah, sometimes we'll just hop in the car and Matt will buy me a coffee and we'll just go for a long drive through the country because that's where we live. And I enjoy just his undivided attention and being able to talk about things that are on my heart and mind that are going to take some time, not something that has to be shoved in between this engagement and that engagement. So,
and Lisa will say, "Oh, I'm talking too much." And I go, "No, I love to hear you talk. It's awesome." So, no, that's good. So, all right, a simple hike, right? Now we live in like the hiking capital of at least our little region.
Yeah, we're in Central Oregon, so it is beautiful for hiking.
But virtually every region in the country has a place where you can go for a walk, go for a bike ride, just go somewhere. Rent some bikes. Go for a bike ride. Cheap. We have this place that's not far from where we live. It's called Bonta
Gelato.
Gelato.
Yeah.
All right. So it's a little artisan Italian ice creamery, basically, and they make the most amazing gelato. It's awesome. So we go there and just get the little scoop of ice cream and sit and talk. So these are very simple things to do. If you don't want to go out for the big meal, go out for dessert. Just go out for dessert and coffee somewhere. Just go out and have a drink with each other.
Sometimes Matt and I'll go out for chips and salsa, just a really, again, simple, early, like late afternoon thing. And before the rush gets there, and it doesn't cost as much because you're just having a little snack.
Yep. And because we get raw milk from a local farmer, we have had milk dates before.
Yeah. That's another thing we did for quite a few years. Sunday night milk date.
So it really is really simple. Even a picnic, that starts feeling like an epic move for a lot of guys. But honestly, how hard can it be?
Make a peanut butter sandwich.
Go to the market, buy a couple of sandwiches, buy a couple of drinks, a little bit of fruit, and some chocolate. Dude, you're set. All right.
True.
And
it's true.
And a blanket. Make sure it's a big enough blanket for you all to sit down and hang
talk.
out. I don't know if you want to talk on a blanket.
I should add that.
So anyway. So yeah, it's just so simple. It's just so simple. And if you get to the place where you can remember to invite your wife, say, hey, would you like to go out? I'd love to take you out. This is like music to your wife's heart.
It sure is.
And you need to make her the priority, and you need to take care of the details. It's on you. And frankly, it's awesome. I just have to say, you can incrementally grow closer, have a richer, more wonderful relationship, and it does not take that long. See, as soon as your wife understands that she is your deep priority, she's your number one priority, as soon as she understands that, the response of her heart toward you will grow and grow and grow.
I was thinking this whole time we've been talking, I've been thinking like, what is that's so powerful about that for me? And I think it's because during those times, I'm not just your wife. I'm not just the mother of your children. I'm not your ministry partner, business partner. I am a woman just for that time. And well, throughout the time, but it reminds me that I'm a woman to you. And I don't know any woman that doesn't want to feel that way and know that.
Well, I like to tell men, just remember one thing. The years will pass. The chores will increase. The management of the house will become more of a challenge. The kids will come and go. The years will go on. But one thing will never change. She's always a woman. And she will never stop desiring to be desired.
No, I agree. That's true.
I like talking about this. Hey, you want to go on a date?
I do.
So, all right. But here we are. We better wrap up. And because these people now want to get out and go date, and we're kind of holding them back from that. So,
okay.
All right. Today's takeaways. All right.
Make dating a priority. Make it your number one. Make it happen.
Make it happen. Start today. And for most, that means put it on the schedule, right? Schedule this thing and protect that time from all comers.
And just remember that God made you each other's priority. This is a priority. This is not optional.
That's right. Cherishing your wife is not optional. Men, take the initiative. You will not be sorry. All right. Well, hey, everybody. Thanks for being here today. And please remember to leave a review. If you enjoyed this, share it on social media. That's a huge help, too, in terms of getting the word out. And thank you so much for your encouragement. We really super appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you want to tag us on at Club 31 Women or at Faithful Man, then we'll reshare it, too. We always enjoy doing that.
Awesome. Absolutely. So thanks again so much for joining us today.
Remember, our God is our rock and our Redeemer.
He already knows what your week holds. He knows what you're facing.
He loves you and is for you.
So this week, draw near to God, and He will draw near to you.